Welcome everybody. We're doing another spray video and I'm going to say a big shout out to Chris at Spray It. They're a company that does a spray academy, but they also produce their own paint, and the paint that they're producing is the Pentura paint. Just there's a few details, and if I hold that there for long enough, can you get focus on that? You might be able to scan that through, but I will put a link in the description below. Now, Chris has seen my channel. He sees that I do testing of various paints, and Chris reached out to me and said, Phil, we've got a paint that we use at our academy and on jobs on sites, and I'd like me to give it a go. Now, I'm not a sprayer. I don't spray every single day of the week. I'm an all-round decorator. I can turn my hand to the wallpapering, I can turn my hand to the decorative paint finishes, doing the marbling, the graining and the bits and pieces like that, but I can also spray. I touched on spraying when I was doing my Advanced Craft City and Guilds, which you learn the basics, and going forward you pick things up as you go along. So over the last 34 years, obviously we've done more spraying, and come up to present day, we're doing a lot more spraying than we did 20, 30 years ago. Stands to reason. But I don't spray uPVC that often. It's more a case of I can do it as and when. But I normally stick to the paints that I know. I stick to the water-based paints when we're spraying kitchens, spraying inside houses. But Chris had said to me, Phil, have you tried any of the 2K product paints? And I went, no. So Chris sent me some paint out, and that video there, you saw that I tried his 2K paint for uPVC, that you mixed it with 10% activator. Great results. Please watch that video. Very happy with it. But we're moving on. So these are only sample tins. Don't get excited that I've been sponsored and I've got gallons of paint behind my wall here. I've only got small litre tins to try out and experiment with. But this paint that we're using now, I've got, and I'll lift the lid, can't say that. This is the 2K, because this is new on the market. This is the 2K uPVC paint, and it's classed as the Pro Plus. Now you're going to say, what's the difference? Now, the Pro Plus is a 3:1 mix ratio and add 10% thinner to it. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. The last paint I tried was the 2K, and it was a case of mixing the paint up and adding activator to it of 10%. This is a little bit different. This is adding a 3:1 ratio of paint with activator. And as it says there, you'll probably see it better there, then you add 10% of the 2K thinner. You can buy all these products through Chris, and as I say, there'll be a link below to his website. But I'm going to try it, and you're going to say, what's this paint like? It's easy for me just to read the blurb on their website. You can pull it up on your phone. It's an activator and 2K thinner. Sorry, let's say that again. The activator and 2K thinner is sold separately, so if you do buy the paint, you want to make sure that you've got the right stuff with it. But the Pentura Pro Plus is a versatile, high solid 2K polyurethane paint that can be applied directly to a variety of substrates without the need of a primer. Great, we like that. Pentura Pro Plus is a very durable paint and has an excellent finish, as I found with the first Pentura paint that I tried in that corner. It is suitable for applications by a wide range of methods, including conventional spray. I do have conventional spray, but today I'll be using the HVLP through a QT5, stage 5 HVLP, including conventional spray, HVLP, airless spray, or air-assisted airless spray. Now, I've not got an air-assisted airless spray. If anybody wants to reach out to me and say, Phil, there's a kit that's going spare for demoing, please send me one. It'd be nice to try that, because my sort of decorating that I do is in people's homes and outside. So I can get away with just HVLP and airless without needing to do the combined mix. If you don't know what airless and HVLP air assisted is. It's, well, let's say that again. If you don't know what the air assisted spraying is, it's pumping air with airless and mixing it, and you'll find that more in spray shops where they've got dedicated spray booth situations where they're more of a static sprayer. But that's, Google it. I'll say Google it. Right, let's get back to this. It's a good. It has good adhesion to a wide variety of substrates and is available in 3 gloss levels: gloss, satin, and matte. Now, the paint I've got today is satin. I like satin as a finish. It looks great on uPVC. It's not overcritical because gloss can be very critical, but it's quite forgiving as well. I'm going to say it's quite forgiving. So on with, well, 5 minutes in to talk about what we're doing. I'm going to be using a needle set of 1.5. I've got a 1.5, I've got a 1.8. I'm quite happy using the 1.5. If you've got a 1.3 on a conventional spray, you could use that. You could use 1.4 as well, but we're going with a 1.5. I've got just the pot underneath for the suction, and what I'll be doing, I'll be mixing the paint up like I did before, and I've got these mixing pots, and people are saying, where are you getting them from? Please look down in the link below, because I do sell, and loosely use the word sell. I have these in my Amazon storefront that if anybody wants to purchase, they can do. You don't pay me a commission for selling and buying through the Amazon link. Amazon give me a small commission, so I don't think I'm going to be rolling in commissions from people buying off the Amazon storefront. It just costs you exactly the same off Amazon, but it's a lot easier to buy if you need things next day and they're on Prime. Let's crack on with this. Right, so what these are actually measuring pots that I've got the scale gauge on the side. It's all in milliliters. But also what's handy is if I've got a 3-to-1 mix, I can find the 3-to-1 mix ratio there, and then next to it, it also has the 10% additive guide on the side. I only need a small amount because I've just got a panel down here to experiment with. So what I'll be doing is a 3-to-1 mix just at the lower level, which is equating, by the time it's all mixed up, will give me about 100 ml of paint. Now, I found that last time I used it for the 2K spraying, I'd still got quite a bit left over. That's the leftovers. Yeah, I'm not going to use that again, it's gone solid. So I'm going to mix the paint up now. I'm going to get it in the pot. I'm going to have a little bit of an experiment with spraying it. I will be on full throttle of the airflow to start with it. If I feel I can just turn it down on the, let's go down. You turn it, if that's connected up, you can actually regulate the airflow from the dial at the back there. If you don't know about airless spraying, there's a video there, but those that do know will know that the regulator for the airflow should be the nearest to the gun, which is there. The dial there regulates how far the needle comes in and out for the orifice to allow more paint or less paint. These are all the basics, but again, please watch that video there and the playlist that I've got for HVLP spraying. But what I'll be doing, I'll be mixing up. I'll do the usual, try it on a piece of the card at the back. I will be miscoating that first, and you know why I miscoat? It's because if there is any imperfections or any contamination on that surface, it will show up with that first mist coat, which is really dialed down flow of the paint. Once that's on there, it's going to be dry within 15 minutes. I'll be recoating and doing about 3 coats over that. So it'll be a mist coat and then 2 top coats over that. So in effect, 3 coats. Proper curing time is probably about, let me just check. I think it's 10 hours. Let me just check on that. Yeah, touch dry, 15 to 20 minutes and hard dry in 10 hours. And it does say recommended needle nozzle for an HVLP is 1.3, 1.4 or 1.5, which I've actually just gone through. Just always read the instructions if needs be, and I'll just reiterate, this is a 3-to-1 activator mix and then a 10% of the 2K thinner mix. And again, you can buy all that through Chris at Pentura / Spray It. So I'm going to crack on. Make sure you mix that well first, tip out what you need into there, then add the thinner and the additive to the ratios that are required. So see you in a bit. Just so you know what I'm doing, I've got these pots. I've actually made 2 up, so I've got 2 mixes of this. I've done a 3-to-1 ratio. Oh, I'm splashing about 3-to-1 ratio. So I go to the 3 there, and then I top up with the activator up to the 1, and then I need 10%, which is also marked with the little, I think you can see it. I need 10% of that quantity of that 3-to-1 of the thinner. So I've done that. I've already made one up, mixed it up there, and I'm doing another one, so I've got enough paint, because I actually made one pot up and thought, let's have a bit more. So I've done that, and I'm just going to get ready for spraying now. Before I start, I've told you before, don't use one of those paper filter masks for spraying, particularly when you're spraying 2K products. I've got a proper mask. Now, if you want to know about the proper mask, I spoke about it in the last video, the Pentura paint in that corner. And also in that corner, I will do a link to the actual mask that I've got, which explains a little bit more. You know what I'm like for explaining everything. A little bit more in-depth explanation about these filters that are on here. But as I found out the last time that I used this 2K product, it stinks. It's not something I'd want to be using in somebody's house because it stinks to high heaven. But when I've got this mask on, I can't smell anything. That's how good this mask is. So just finish off mixing this paint. I'll have a bit of a practice and I'll come back to you in a minute. You can smell the paint. Now, you need a mask. I've got a sample board there that I've cleaned down properly. It's a panel of a uPVC door. You can see it there. It's a panel of a uPVC door. I've cleaned it down as you would do, washed it down, and I've cut it down with some fine sandpaper and some Scotch-Brite pads to get rid of that luster on the surface. Washed it down again, and then when it's dried, I've just gone over it with some ordinary standard cellulose thinners. That just cleans it down and gets any grease, any surface tension grease off there. Now, I have had a little bit of a practice with this paint now. I've got some sample uPVCs, and this has been cleaned down exactly the same as well. I've done a mist coat. Now, I'm hoping that the mist coat will show up better on a piece of white than that brown mahogany uPVC. Now, that is all a mist coat needs to be. Can you see it? It looks very mist. It's not got very much on it. Now, that's been done about 5 minutes, a little bit tacky, but that's all I'm going to be doing on there. Just covering the surface with a mist coat, just like that. And that will show up any imperfections, i.e. any of the surface that might need cleaning again because I've missed it, or there might be something on that surface that is just stopping the paint adhering to it, and you don't want that. If it starts sissing, you know there's a contaminant on that surface. So what I would say is, when you're at that stage of mist coating, it's a lot easier to go back and sort out any problems. That's why you do a mist coat on uPVC. And as I said earlier a few minutes ago, it'll have a mist coat and then 2 coats over the top. The first coat over the mist coat, I will be putting it on a little bit heavier than that. And then when it comes to the final full coat, it will be a little bit more heavier. So just add a little bit more paint to the flow as you go on per coat. If you get experience with this, you'll go, oh, mist coat it and then bang 2 solid coats over. Fair enough, but for the people that are learning off me, just build it up gently. It's easier to do lighter coats than like one heavier coat, a little bit like emulsion. So let's get this mist coated and see what it's like in a little while. Now I hope you can see that. It was only a fine mist coat and I actually went across it twice, mainly to make sure I don't know why I was standing in your way, mainly to make sure that I could get these mouldings going round. I'm in a bit of a cramped workshop, so it's a bit hard for me to actually get round easily. But what I've done, I've gone over that. It's mist coated nicely. You can see that the colour of the anthracite starting to come through. I'm going to give that 15-20 minutes. I'll let the air clear in here because it is you can chew the air at the moment. I'll let that go off. I'll come back. I'll respray that up with the first top coat. Then I'll do that and then we'll get the final coat on. So I will see you in a little while. What I've done, it's been a good 20-25 minutes now. I've rotated the panel round so I can get all edges a lot easier. I've had a little bit of a practice again. I've dialed out the actual spray needle so more paint goes on. So this time I'm expecting it to nearly cover. Not totally, but nearly. When you spray, just keep that distance about so far away. And I'm still on the full flow of the airflow. There. I found when I turned it down, there wasn't enough atomization. So that's had the second coat. I've not put too thick a coat on. I've got a little bit of pimpling with the, let's call it just the splatter of the spray going on. I'm hoping that'll level out. But when we come to that final coat, I will open out that spray needle, put more of a wetter coat on. And as I've said to you before, when I've been spraying this 2K, just make sure you keep your pot moving. Don't let it set up because it'll settle in the bottom. You just need to keep it moving. I can feel that I've still got a nice amount of paint in there. So I've got enough to actually open up and put more on. But just be mindful, you still need your overlaps, your 50-50 overlaps when you're spraying to get it even. And that's not bad at all. So it's in about half an hour. Right, we're going in for the final coat now. That actual second coat's not too bad. Now, as I said earlier, I'm not a sprayer that's doing uPVC all the time, and I'm not a sprayer that uses this 2K product. I've never tried it before, that's why I'm trying it now. Now, I'm looking at a little bit of a texture. Not a lot, but if you look close, it looks a little bit textured. It is a satin finish. It's not a shiny satin finish. It's more of a, well, it's definitely not matte, but I'm just seeing a little bit of a pimple to it. Tell me, is that me? Am I holding too far away and it's splattering? Or is it the mix? I've got the mix wrong. Should I have added a little bit more thinner to it? I don't know. Answers on a postcard, but I'm trying the paint out to see what it's like, and it's so far so good. So this coat that I'm going to go on with now is actually going to have a little bit more paint flow. So I'm hoping it'll be a little bit more wet, and I will get that finished now with a third coat, i.e. the mist coat is one, the first coat of top coat, and then a second coat is a total of 3. So let's get my mask on, because the air in this studio is very pungent and very, you can chew the air. Maestro, turn the machine on. So before I do this summing up of this paint, I'm going to be cleaning the kit out. Literally tip your remainder of your paint out that you're not using, put it into something that you can throw away, i.e. let it go hard, set up. Put some cellulose thinners, gun cleaner into your spray pot, swill it around, let that eat into it, dissolve it, get rid of it, spray it through the spray needle. That should actually disperse all that paint quite quickly, and then strip your spray gun down, just clean everything and then put it back together. So I will say that's probably about a 10-minute job for me. Right, that third coat is now on. Somebody tell me, comment below, am I doing it wrong? There's a little bit of a texture to that now. When I say camera finish, you know the old fashioned camera sorts of finishes, there's a little bit of a texture to it. I think when I try this again, and I will try this paint again, I think this wants thinning a little bit more. I think that was a little bit too thick for what I was trying to do with it. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. Chris, if you're watching, where have I cocked up on this? It's gone on nice, it's sprayed all right, other than I think it's gone on a bit too thick. Now, is that down to me? Give us some tips below. I did that sample piece. Let's get rid of that. I did that sample piece earlier on in between everything. And I would also say I'll probably put that, let's get it there because you can see it. Now that is really heavy because I did open it out to try to see what it was actually like. That's what my camera finish, well, I'll try to explain this camera finish. That is not as bad as that because I did dial it back a bit, but please tell me. I'm not going to say why is it like that because I know why it's like that. It's too thick. Have I got my ratios wrong using, let's get it, these cups? Because as I understand it, there's the 3:1 ratio. And if you want to do 10% to that, there's the 10% mark. That's how I understand it. And looking at it, the mark that is there is actually 10% of the volume of what that is. So I think, oh, I'm back. Ricky's with me as well. We do not look the same, do we? Look at that. Do we look the same? Nah. I think my mixer's right, as in quantities there. Let's come back a bit. But I think I could actually go a little bit thinner and get it spraying a bit finer than that, softer. That said, I'm going to put a marker pen across that, put a date on it, and I'll come back to this in about a month's time and I'll just see what it's like as a scratch test with the nail. But I'm just trying to take some tape off so we can look at it. But other than that, yes, quite impressed with the mixing of the two sorts of activator and thinner. What I will say is, and I'm going to close on this and there'll be some videos at the end, I'm going to say it stinks. I've got the garage open. I did the spraying in here. The airflow's there. I've got a proper mask. And as soon as I've done the spraying, I had to get out because it reeks. It's very pungent. I will say, personally, this is not a product you want to be spraying privately in people's houses. Commercially, it's probably fine. Commercially outside, commercially in spray booths, it's brilliant. But inside somebody's private home, think about it before you start getting the paint thinking it's going to be rock hard solid, which it probably will be. Proper dry in 10 hours. Leave it longer, gives even more time to cure, but that, it's got a whiff to it. Proper strong pear drops. Let's close on that. Thank you very much, Chris. I will try this again. I'll get some more samples to try out and I will thin it and have a play personally and see if I can actually improve on my spray finish there. This is me trying a paint for the first time. Have I messed up? I don't know. Videos at the end.